Welcome to the Innovation Meets Leadership podcast. Real inspiration for real innovators. If you're looking for innovation and leadership transformation, your journey starts now.
Welcome to the Innovation Meets Leadership podcast. I'm your host, Natalie Born. Well, I would love for you to help us spread the word by leaving a review wherever you listen to podcasts so that other innovators like you can find us. And I want to welcome Mali to the list of 70 plus countries listening from around the world. Well, you're in a special treat today because we have Dr. Clint Ladine joining us, and his mission is to help leaders utilize coaching techniques to unleash the power of their teams, optimize their leadership skills, and drive performance to new heights. As a leadership success coach and former professional basketball player, Dr. Clint knows the difference between bad coach and a good coach. And to that end, he has written Power Coaching. And then he is also, this is something that people are calling a must-have within the leadership toolbox, which I absolutely love. He also is the owner of Successfully Coaching. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Clint.
Thank you for having me, Natalie.
Well, I have to hear a little bit about your background of professional basketball player, coach. Like, what inspired you to then go into coaching? Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I was working at an organization here in the city and knew in my leadership journey, they had given us a executive coach. And I immediately thought, oh my God, what did I do wrong? This organization doesn't think I am talented enough. I got scared. And I was really nervous. I was wondering, what is this guy possibly going to teach me? I already had my master's degree. I had been in the industry for 5 years. He was an expert in our field. And so I was very apprehensive about receiving this coaching. Short story is it turned out to be transformational. It took my leadership capacity to a new level, our organization to a new level. And I just thought, man, I have to learn more about this. And so went back to school, got my doctorate in executive coaching, and just said, you know what, everybody needs to experience this. It was amazing. And so that began my journey into executive and success coaching.
I love that. You know, I think a lot about my executive coach, and especially she came into my life at a very pivotal career time when I was trying to kind of figure out what was next for my career. And one of the things I love about working with her, and she gave me so much language to things that I couldn't describe or really understand what I was feeling. And she kind of helped me figure out, what's my talent identity? How do I articulate that to someone? What would you say during that season when you were given that coach, and you were a little apprehensive, right? What was unlocked for you during that time?
You know, for me, people have different issues, but for me, I thought that everything relied on me. So I thought, if I really do everything, if I show how talented I am, that people will follow me and that I will get the pats on the back, and people will say, what an amazing leader Clint is. He can do so much. And that was a huge blind spot. And what my coach did and helped me was to realize that, number one, you're only going to be able to do so much. And then helping me unlock the power, beginning to develop those around me and that work for me, and watching them succeed. And for me, that was revolutionary. I know for some, they're like, that's basic leadership. But for me at that time, it was revolutionary and just popped the top off of my leadership.
I love that. And I do think coaches, really good coaches, help you expand those areas that we would call our blind spot, to be able to really look at them and then begin to work on them. Talk to me a little bit about the difference between a good coach and a bad coach. Like, what are some things that you've learned over the years about both?
Yeah, so we'll kind of use the term coaching and leadership kind of in that vein. You know, I think, with playing basketball and then experiencing leaders, a bad coach is really self-absorbed. They believe that it's about them. They're only concerned with outcomes. We know as leaders that we do need to perform, that we do have metrics that we have to hit. But a good coach, a power coach, is really someone that is about developing their team. They're concerned about their professional growth, their development, their capacity as people and as workers, And when you begin to tap into that, when you begin to make that the key ingredient of your leadership, people begin to excel, and it just transforms individuals and ultimately your organization.
I love that. So what would you say is pivotal with coaching? Like, who should have a coach? How should we think about coaching? Is it kind of a point in time in your life, or do you believe that people should be being coached kind of throughout their life? What is your philosophy on that?
Well, I'll share a story. So I'm not super young. I do, as I mentioned, went on and got a doctorate in the field, and I still have a coach. So that's how important I believe it is. And so I think anybody in their journey, it's so important, Natalie, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on this, is one of the things that a coach does in addition to helping identify blind spots and helping reframe obstacles that you're going through and helping you identify limiting beliefs, is I really love this component of coaching. You really have someone in your corner. When you think about it, not a lot of people have someone that's encouraging them, that's building them up, right? That's letting them know that, you know what, these things are possible. And having someone in your corner to help you navigate those tricky times and keep you focused on your desired future, I think is invaluable.
Yeah, that's powerful. And I would agree with you wholeheartedly. I think about, my executive coach, and one of the things that I remember a couple of months ago, I was kind of lamenting to her about a problem I was trying to solve. And she just said this to me simply, and it was so funny because it was so true. She just said, well, Natalie, wherever you go, there you are. And it was just that idea that, hey, you could take 8 different jobs, but you would still show up as you. So when you're thinking about this behavior or this thing that's going on, how do you understand what it is and then realize that you have the ability to make that change? And it seemed like just a very simple phrase, but it rung for probably 2 weeks. And as a result, going back and saying, okay, I need to change some of the meetings I'm attending. I need to change some of the way I'm leading. I need to create some bandwidth for myself so that I can be more effective. And so that's what a coach does. They listen to you, they listen to what you're saying, and then they have that like one-liner or 2-liners that's like, oh yeah, that's right. And I think that's what's so powerful about it.
Yeah. And to your point, right? Just when you ask, should people still have coaching? When you think about it, a lot of people say, well, it's the money and I could be spending my time doing other stuff and performing. But as you just mentioned that anecdote, right? Just that one thing, right? If you can get a nugget there, here or there, it'll take your leadership and your capacity and your organization really to another level. And I'm guessing just that nugget there has helped you tweak some things where you're starting to see some performance improvements, and you're seeing your team become alive, and probably many other areas.
Absolutely. And also just giving them more responsibility and not feeling like I have to carry everything myself. I think that's so important. And so I love what you are leaning into as well, because when you talked about good coach, bad coach, we kind of touched on this idea of ego. And so I think that's such an important part as a leader, to ensure that you're not leading through your ego. But I also think coaches really have to do that too, to ensure they're not leading through their ego. So let's talk a little bit about that, and just some different ways of how you're able to help people kind of recognize that, yeah, we all have an ego, but how do we move that ego out of the way so that we can serve the people that we're, basically in charge of, right? How do we serve them well?
Yeah. Well, I'll use a story. A gentleman I was coaching just had a session a couple weeks ago. And one of the ways that we can do that is we can kind of help leaders reframe, or we can help them take a look back and see how they got to the point they are in their leadership journey. So for this gentleman, it's funny, we're exactly what we're talking about. He's having trouble, letting go. He's having trouble empowering his team. He's having trouble, he doesn't think they can do it, or they'll do it as well. And so, we just took a step back. And one of the things that a coach does is they help evoke awareness, right? It's not always about giving answers. It's about helping them evoke awareness. And so one of the questions that I asked him was, tell me about how your leadership journey and how you got to the point that you are, because you've risen up through the ranks. People obviously trusted you. You've proven yourself to be, worthy of it. And so he began to tell that story. And in that, you can kind of see the aha moments coming on, the light bulb coming on, because he was like, well, you know what? This gentleman here, Johnny, you know what? He trusted me with this. And yeah, I made a couple mistakes along the way, but I felt valued. And then they saw that I was doing this and that. And I said, perhaps you letting others take it, you're helping them build a resume, just as this leader helped you build a resume for your future growth. Could you do likewise? Is that something that interests you as a leader? And he began to think in a different way, and we began to have a conversation around that to help him begin to lay some of those hindrances aside and allow others to flourish and experience the same, I'll say, blessings or benefits that he did of getting to execute, try new things, and be put in the spotlight.
That's so powerful. I think about growing up, I had in my mid-20s, I had a phenomenal boss that I worked for. And he gave us so many different opportunities to try things, to fail, to do it wrong, but help us fix it. And I think that's such an important part of a coach's role, is to help you understand those milestones and mile markers along your journey of why you believe what you believe about leadership, by looking backwards, right, in order to look forward. And so I love that, because I think that's so helpful for people to understand, where did I get what I believe about leadership from, right? Sometimes we get it from amazing bosses. Sometimes we get it through really bad situations. But either way, we're constantly building a belief system of what we think about leadership. And so talk to us a little bit about limiting beliefs and how that holds you back, and how a coach really helps you look at that and begin to, sort out what's a limiting belief from what's maybe a realistic outlook on something.
Yeah, I think a good way to view it. So we have a realistic outlook and a limiting belief. So a realistic outlook will keep you moving toward your desired future. Okay. A limiting belief will prevent you from moving forward. So once again, realistic outlook, you'll continue to move forward. A limiting belief will prevent you from moving forward to that desired future or state. And you can usually kind of tell by if you say a statement and then the word because is after it. So for example, you know what, I would like to target this industry and begin to get a foothold in this new industry or with these new clients. But I can't, because I don't have experience in that field. Now, some would say, hey, that's a very realistic outlook. But what a coach can maybe do is begin to identify, yes, you don't have experience in that field, but are there different ways that we can begin to gain experience while we're working towards that path? Is there somebody we can bring alongside with you to help you gain that knowledge? Can you learn it along the way? And so having that realistic outlook, you're continuing to move forward. And a coach is great at helping you identify, as you said, Natalie, or let's dig into that. Let's dig into that belief. Where does that come from? And begin to explore other possibilities and see where there might be some unhealth in that area.
That's so good. It's interesting. I even look back at the very first time I ever had an interaction with a coach, and I was on a call where they were doing a group coaching session, and I was struggling at work with, I had been put into a role I didn't want to be in. I was on a team I didn't want to be on. And I remember joining this call, and all that coach did was ask me questions. And by the time they had asked me about 5 or 6 questions, I actually knew what I needed to do. And they never gave me any answers. And so I feel like the best coaches, the most powerful coaches, just ask you really great questions that help to peel back what's going on and what are you really after? What are you really trying to accomplish?
Isn't it amazing? And I love to give people this homework. There's a whole chapter in my book there on the power of listening, because when you think about it, right, in your life, and you just, right, that had such an impact on you that one time. If you think about it, you can probably count. I'm not even sure many people have ever had somebody just listen without giving advice or without giving a tip. Mm-hmm. If you try to go back into your mental, right, memory bank, very few times. And I give people this homework. I want people to try this. Go to a party next time or an event or wherever, and just ask people questions. Just try it. Try not to talk about yourself. Try not to say, oh, well, I did this, and oh, I had an experience like that. Just begin to ask questions and questions. You will see people open up. You will see them light up. You will see them say, nobody's ever asked me that before. What a great question. Oh my gosh. And they begin, as you said, like you experienced, they begin to get those wheels turning, and they begin to think differently. And it's an amazing exercise. And when you do it in the workplace, people feel valued. It deepens engagement and obviously increases performance.
That's so good. A friend of ours, we call it story topping, when you're having one of those conversations at a party. And you say, well, what'd you do last weekend? Oh, I went fishing and I caught a fish this big. Oh, that's crazy. I went fishing last week, but my fish was, and you're just like, you lost the moment there.
It's funny. It's once in a while I'll do that, because I'll just be honest. I'll be like, hey, listen, that was a great story, but I'm going to top it right now. And then so I'll just do it. So I understand that.
At least you tell them you're going to top it. You don't just throw it in.
Right. Yeah. So you're right. It's just obvious. I'm just like, hey, that's a great story. I'm going to try to top it with this. And so bring some levity to it, allows me to interject. So
I love that. So what would you say is your ideal client, and what makes them your ideal client?
Entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and medium-sized businesses. One of the things that I love is helping people, right, with these limiting beliefs. It's an area that I'm strong at. I see people that really suffer from it, and I love coming alongside them and helping them kind of pop the top off of those beliefs. I love coming alongside them and helping them instill confidence in themselves, and I love coming alongside them and helping them scale and grow their businesses. A lot of times, they have some things that they have stuck in their head that they think they can't get to the next level. And I love helping them accomplish those dreams, those desires, and get the performance that they want.
That's great. And I love that you mentioned, that coaching's not a one-time thing. It's not like something you just do for a year. It really is lifelong. And I think that as you go through business and as you move up, either in your career or as you grow in your business, you really do need somebody that, one, is cheering you on, because you're right. It is, I've never heard anyone say, I have enough motivation, I have enough people giving me compliments. Like, that's not a thing, right? Most people need that word of encouragement. Most people need somebody in their corner who is for them and is spurring them on. And so I love just thinking about it as, again, a coach, somebody that's there to truly coach you through some of the best moments you're having, some of the worst moments.
Yeah, and that's a lot of it's born kind of out of, bring it back to basketball. When I was trying to play, I played professional basketball overseas in Europe. And when I was doing it, so many people, Natalie, told me, the school you went to isn't big enough, you're not tall enough, you're not fast enough, you're not going to make it, don't try. Had agents, coaches, many people. And so from that, and eventually would go on to do it through persistence, some open doors, and some people that came alongside me. But that's really kind of what birthed it in me, is when I see people telling people, hey, you can't do it, that's going to be too hard, or that's not possible. There's a fire in me that's like, hey, let me tell you, we can do this, you can do this, and you got somebody that's with you along the way.
I love that. What final thoughts would you have for our listeners today?
I would say keep growing, keep developing, if you're a leader, keep pouring into your people. Sit with them, allow them to develop, as you said, allow them to make mistakes and really push them up. Allow them to excel. And really, if you are able, if you have that security in yourself, to really kind of step back and kind of push them up, you will see amazing things happen in their lives. You're going to see amazing things happen in your life as a leader. And ultimately, your organization is going to be a place that's desired to work at, and it will grow, and you'll have even more success.
That's awesome. How do people find and follow you?
I am at successfullycoaching.com and also on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today, Dr. Clint.
Thank you, Natalie. It's a pleasure.
Well, to our listeners, thank you for joining the Innovation Meets Leadership podcast. Remember, don't just get out of the box, break the box, and set it on fire. Let's go transform something.
Thank you for joining us for the Innovation Meets Leadership podcast. Be sure to subscribe to our show on iTunes. Follow us on Instagram or Facebook at Innovation Meets Leadership, and visit our site at innovationmeetsleadership.com for more innovation resources.
Hey, my new book is out, Set It on Fire, The Art of Innovation. Click on the link to learn more. And don't just get out of the box, break the box and set it on fire. Let's go transform something.